Dismissed Sandiganbayan Justice Gregory Ong's name was again dragged into an alleged pork barrel scam as the Anti-Graft Court's Third Division resumed the bail hearings the bail hearing of businesswoman Janet Lim Napoles. We'll have more news on that when we return as we get more details from the Sandiganbayan. Meanwhile, David Santos is in Maguindanao for an update on the Maguindanao Massacre case. David?
Yes, hi, Mike. A mass was held just a few minutes ago right here at the site in Ampatuan town here in Maguindanao, where 58 people, as we have been reporting, were brutally killed half a decade ago, but just a couple of days ahead of the actual date when this gruesome carnage happened in 2009. My members of different media organizations and families of some of the victims attended this event, since 32 of those killed in the massacre were journalists. A delegation from the International Federation of Journalists is joining the activity here today, basically to represent global media and reiterate its outrage over the unresolved heinous crime, as well as demand answers from the Aquino government on what measures have been taken to stop media killings. The National Union of Journalists of the Philippines, which is spearheading today's activities here in Ampatuan town, on the other hand, has pointed out that 5 years since the massacre, the victims and their families have yet to get justice. The NUJP adds, as the case drags on, there is the greater need to protect victims, the victims' families, and case witnesses, as well as to actively pursue about 100 other people who were implicated in the mass murder and they remain at large. But in a statement, IFJ Asia Pacific Acting Director Jane Worthington says the organization is revisiting the country to support calls for accountability from the Philippine government on measures and actions that should have been taken to stop extrajudicial killings. In 2009, the IFJ also sent a team here in Maguindanao as part of an international mission that conducted an independent probe on the massacre and demanded action and justice for the victims of the heinous crime. They are also set to meet with Justice Secretary Leila de Lima and other government officials to discuss the status of the Maguindanao Massacre case. They are also due to release an interim report on Sunday, that's on November 23, the same day that the gruesome murders happened half a decade ago. Now, today's mass and visit here at the massacre site is just part of the week-long activities organized by different media organizations to drum up public support on calls to bring justice to massacre victims, as well as for government to take proper action to put an end to extrajudicial killings in general and also attacks on media. As we speak, a number of the journalists who are present here today, as well as the families of murdered journalists who are also joining today's activity, offered flowers and candles in the grave site where many of the victims were buried here in Ampatuan town. As we speak, we are told that we're gonna listen to some messages from the representatives of media organizations, as well as some words from the families of the victims.
David, are the families hopeful that the Quezon City RTC will be able to resolve at least the bail petitions of the Ampatuans by next year?
Yes, but we don't have that information right now as we speak, Mike, because we just arrived in this site, here the massacre site, just before 11, and the mass was immediately held up on our arrival here, and several other activities that followed after. We'll get the chance to speak to them, and we'll ask that question. But what I can tell you, Mike, is that basically these families who are present here today, the families of the massacre victims, these are relatives, these are families of journalists who were part of those murdered 5 years ago. And they share the stand of the NUJP, the National Union of Journalists of the Philippines, who organized the event here, and that they are saying also that they want that's transparent, as well as all the legal processes would go through fairly and justly and transparent, and that whatever decisions will be made should be transparent, and that it should be clearly explained to them, and that there should be, I'm referring to the pronouncement of one of the private prosecutors, Harry Rocky, was saying that there could be resolution to one of the case, there could be convictions for some of the victims. Now, for the
Yes.
bail petition, it's something that they hope could be resolved fairly. They're not saying that they are against it, but perhaps we can hear from them when we get the chance to speak to them a few minutes from now, Mike.
Okay, thank you. David Santos reporting to us from Maguindanao. It's been 5 years and we haven't seen any convictions.